Make no attempt to reload your device. You are now entering the Hellhole.
Welcome back to the Hellhole. We're live, pal. I'm internet sensation Mick Lucifer, a lover of fighting games, a fighter for love. I don't know if it's going to be all love here, but I thought, you know, in the spirit of trying something a little different and being a little bit tired and cranky, I didn't really feel like playing anything, but there's a whole heap of trailers that came out over the weekend for Evo, fighting game trailers, and if you've been around the Hellhole, you probably have a sense that I have a certain love for fighting games. We've really only dabbled. We've done some Mortal Kombat. I'm in the middle of sort of playing the World Tour mode of Street Fighter. We've done like Double Dragon. I did Street Fighter 2 on my birthday with Double Dragon and the Ninja Turtles, sort of scrolling beat-em-ups, belt-scrolling beat-em-ups, as I would like to say. I'm a huge fighting game fan. I would say I'm a fighting game tragic. I'm not particularly good at the games, but I love those worlds. I love those characters. I love being in those environments, and there's a whole heap of character trailers, so this is something that I am interested in. Hopefully I will find something to say, because I don't usually do it in this format, and often like I'm writing news about these things, and that can get a little bit sterile. It's not really very fulfilling a lot of the time. So this is hopefully a chance to maybe drop some hot takes. So let's start with Mortal Kombat 1, because this is kind of like the one that is close to me. This was interesting, this arena. I don't know what this is. Is this like the flesh pits or something? That dead guy looked a little bit like Quan Chi. I felt like I kept seeing Quan Chi out of the corner of my eyes. I got Quan Chi paranoia. He's in the combat pack. He's downloadable content. This is a reptile. Size-off. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know how I feel about that design. That design reeks of the 2021 movie. I'm talking over the trailer. You can find the trailers if you want to watch them. I'm going to be talking over them. We'll loop it around. Maybe make some more points, but I really immediately, I had some pretty mixed reactions to this trailer, and I feel that way about Mortal Kombat 1 in general. I don't like the concept. I'm not on board with the premise. I don't want to start over again. You know, I'm not interested in reboots in general. I just want to keep moving forward and accumulating. It's an interesting one though. We might accumulate some new details, so I wouldn't want to like totally just shit all over this thing, but this is not the Mortal Kombat game I'm looking for. I consider Mortal Kombat 2011 to be an enduring mistake. It's kind of the fracture from which we have not recovered. MKX was a very good game and maybe generally the most appealing. Again, reminding you that I'm very much in it for the characters, the plot lines, and the sort of the accumulation, the world building and all that. Size-Off as a name, like Reptile is a goofy name. This guy's name is not Reptile. I think we can all generally accept that. Size-Off I have mixed feelings about, but really the design, they've gone hard into the lizard aspect. I got mixed feelings about that. I like Reptile to be more reptilian. I'm not a fan. I don't like palette swaps, just as a rule. I consider palette swaps to be the limitation from which the franchise needed to evolve, and did evolve from, and I don't want to go back. I don't want to regress, and this whole game feels a little bit like heavy regression. It is good to see them sort of adding more things that are not purely regressing back to the earliest state of the game. And Ed Boon has been talking up those sort of 3D era games, and we've got 2 Deception characters here, so like, if you don't know the different eras of Mortal Kombat, it doesn't really matter, but like, we've got Ashura, and we've got Havoc. This is Reptile. So the human thing, I'm not so into it. I particularly, it's a little thing, it just grinds me out the wrong way that so-called human Reptile is bearing his face. I think I liked the notion that the face mask, as much as I'm opposed to sort of like the palette swap concept in general, the face mask covering his human face added to the facade, and the notion that he's a reptilian hiding with human skin, and the idea that he wouldn't just strip naked and look like you or me, that he would be like ripped flesh or flesh toned scales or something like. So the idea that it's a flimsy facade, but generally I prefer like a reptilian Reptile. I want the green skin. They've gone very hard. I mean, it looks very much like the Lizard from Spider-Man, the villain. And the Spider-Man game coming up on PS5, Spider-Man 2 has the Lizard, and there is an obvious comparison, because they've gone a little bit off model for the Lizard as well. He doesn't have like the lab coat. He's not wearing his pants, his lab coat. So everybody's going off model, and like so many things of like the last 15 years, it's all converging. And that gets really uninteresting. That gets really disappointing. So, I don't know. There's got to be a bit of a balance, and I think they've done interesting things. As the trailer loops back around, we'll see some of the details that I do like. But this, so like, I don't like seeing the naked face of a human, and they've very much made it like he can, it's Mighty Morphin Time kind of stuff. Like, he is shape-shifting, and it just, I don't know, it grinds me out the wrong way. I don't necessarily expect to see him doing the Hannibal Lecter, putting on a skin, a skin flap or something, but that's the sort of underlying concept I like. This is interesting. It's sort of like some sort of festive environment. It looks like, is this Earth Realm? I'm not really sure. It's hard to know what Outworld is looking like these days, but this strikes me that it could be like an Outworld delegates visiting. This is Ashura. It's interesting because, like in Deception, Ashura she was a little bit boring, often unfairly called like female Raiden because she's wearing white and a hat, and I think she had a diving torpedo style move. And I did feel she was a little bit bland back then. I wasn't totally sold, but then over the years, she really grew on me, like a lot. I think there's a lot you could do with that. The more you think about that character, the more opportunities present themselves. So I'm glad Ashura is back. I'm a little bit disappointed with the design. I would have liked more of the flowing fabrics, whereas she's got that sort of like hard sculpted neoprene leather sort of thing going on. It's sort of like, what is it? I miss the fabrics, and the fabrics that sort of, there was like a flowing quality to it. But this design isn't bad. I just want to have like maybe customizable hats. I feel like the hat was part of her identity. It was good. Again, it was sort of like she's a character with something to hide, a bit like Reptile. I don't want her necessarily to be, not overemphasizing it, but just the idea that maybe the hat sort of, she's holding something back. That kind of thing. Here we get to see some of Reptile's moves, and the way he's shifting in and out of lizard form, human form. I kind of like that just as like a conceit for the moves and a presentation. It's kind of, we're trying to have it both ways, and it's kind of working. I don't hate that. I hate that the lizard design is very similar to what was in the 2021 movie. And there's these little echoes of that movie popping up in this movie that I really do not, in this game, that I really don't respond to. Something that's, I would say, is pretty cool in this is the Living Forest arena. And like, I I have a lot of negative things to say, a lot of criticisms, critiques maybe. Critiques is the word. I have critiques of Mortal Kombat 2011, the 9th game in the mainline series, sort of. But I felt like through all of those chapters, the arena team has really had like a great game going, and this Living Forest looks really good. I like it. It's a little bit different. You know, if I had to choose, I would skew maybe a bit more towards the classics, a little less like bulging skulls, and a little bit more trees with facial features. But this is looking good. I mean, I don't know how many times we're going to go around. I've been avoiding talking about Havoc, because that's a character, you know, if Ashura, the more you think about her, the more interesting she gets. To me, Havoc was an uninteresting character who only gets less interesting the more you think about him. I have no love for Havoc. I don't need Havoc to be in these games. I think the fandom of Havoc is sort of a little bit... I mean, people have their favorites, and I give that to them, but I wonder... Is that gonna... I wonder, will the more Havoc is exposed, will some of that fandom melt away? Because I think there was that a bit... It's a bit like... I feel like some of the Joker fan base that developed in more recent years, this sort of like, you know, cheering for the heel, identifying with the bad guy, getting some sort of jollies out of this guy who's just really sort of, he exists to disrupt. And one of the things that irritates me about Havoc is that his whole existence was defined by chaos. And it's all this chaos and stuff. But fighting games are such a... They exist as rule sets. And in the interest of like a balanced competitive fighting game, which is really a huge focus these days, these things have to be like tournament viable. Mortal Kombat can't get away with it anymore. But they needed that legitimacy. And that is something I presume they are striving for, even though it seems like the game is still working out its gameplay. But you need that balance, and fighting games are all about, you know, rule sets, strict logics that allow those characters to meet in a balanced way. Havoc would be an interesting... He could be like an interesting boss or an NPC, because then you can break those rules. But as a playable character, Havoc can never embody the chaos that is supposed to be the center of his existence, which I just find so uninteresting. And even the chaos, as it's presented, he is not really an agent of chaos. Sometimes his plans are very meticulous. The Mortal Kombat X comic books brought people around on some of these characters that weren't quite fleshed out, but you could see the details. I think a lot of fans, they already know. Some fans need to be shown, and just the act of showing is enough. But like, if you read that Mortal Kombat X comic book, Havoc is cooking up some very, very ordered plans. He is not an agent of chaos at all, or not an entity of chaos at least. So I always... It's one of those concepts that is never going to be delivered on. I find the design pretty uninteresting. There's a sense, there's too much humanity, and one of my broad problems with this Mortal Kombat 1 game is the naturalistic aesthetic. You see Serena coming in as a demon. That's one of the good things about her and Ashura being here. Serena's only a cameo, and I would probably argue that you don't need both characters. Serena was the one that she was in Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero. You know, she's part of the Sub-Zero story, and there was always the notion of her, like, maybe, you know, having a relationship with Sub-Zero. It gets a little bit soap opera, but it's fine. You know, that's what these fighting games are sometimes best at. But, you know, Serena's whole thing was she was like, it's Serena, Jataka, and Kia were the assassins that worked for Quan Chi, and they were kind of bound to him because the trade-off was he was helping them maintain some sort of like humanity in it, and it was very much like it's like this basic mythological, you know, allegory type thing. It was about beauty and these demons trying to attain a human facade that only Quan Chi could provide. And there's an interesting sort of like, you know, if you want to weave that into a metaphor, there was an element of addiction to it because he's the supplier. They can't really break away from him and that whole thing. But then Serena does break away, and she tries, you know, she strives to be a better person or whatever, like a demon with a heart of gold. But it's very similar to Ashura's story, basically, where Ashura gets this crisp blade, and if she kills demons, she will gain that. She'll gain that sort of purification and a certain amount of humanity through that purification, through her actions, which ultimately makes her she's a more interesting version of the same idea. And so that's where I would say, like, over the years, I definitely came around to Ashura. Ashura was the one I wanted to see come back. Serena felt like she had sort of been played a couple of times, and it never went anywhere, and it sort of felt like that had run its course. Let's give Ashura a try. Let's follow through on that. Particularly as, like, in the new timeline since 2011, Ashura didn't really show up. Serena was in Mortal Kombat X in story mode. She wasn't playable, but she was sort of like a story mode character. There was a sense of some of the plot lines still playing out, because they did kind of allude to the fact that the rebooted timeline in MK 2011, the so-called ninth game. I will look, if you're not reading between the lines here. Okay, the game is called, officially it's called Mortal Kombat, which was dumb then and is dumb now, and I think they should be beholden to their stupidity. It was a stupid mistake to call that game Mortal Kombat. We're now coming up with Mortal Kombat 1. So you kind of got 3 games floating around the same name. The creative decisions are a little bit dodgy. Just my opinion. But anyway, the game is called Mortal Kombat. It came out in 2011. We used the year to identify it. So I'll call it Mortal Kombat 2011, but that was a boneheaded move by Warner Brothers, NetherRealm, whoever was responsible. It was probably a Warner Brothers kind of thing. Maybe. Feels that way. I think they should be beholden to that. In any event, this trailer, a lot of mixed feelings about it. I think it's cool that Ashura's back. The design, I want to see some more options. It's not terrible. It's just not quite where I would like it to be, maybe. The head's interesting. I wonder if the head is sort of like a transitional thing. She didn't really have any demonic features in Deception. And something that I've been wanting to see the demonic Ashura and Serena or Kia or Jutaka. I've been wanting to see that demon form realized for quite a long time. It feels very overdue to me.
Take your chaos elsewhere.
The fact that Serena's demon form is like Harvey Comics hot stuff, you know, this like cartoon devil with the tail and everything, that's a little surprising. I feel like that's new. I don't think we've really seen demonic characters in Mortal Kombat look like that. Usually you get those bony sort of things, or they're like, you know, there was a little bit of creativity. I look back at like Shaolin monks and the revelation of those blue skin Onis. I mean, I guess that came from Moloch in Deadly Alliance. That was the first time we really got those sort of like blue skin Oni with maybe multiple eyes. But then they did like the Orochi demons and stuff and all that stuff. Like, it'd be great to see some of that. And I always have this axe to grind. Like, you go back to Mortal Kombat 4, Shinnok is coming out of the NetherRealm. He's gonna raise hell. He's laying waste to the heavens. He's going after the gods. He's trying to get, you know, he's mixing it up in Outworld, but he's coming for Earthrealm and all that. And they reprise that for Mortal Kombat X, where they sort of, in this new timeline, they very quickly retell Mortal Kombat 4, but then they do like a sequel as well. It's like Mortal Kombat 4 2, you know, Shinnok's Revenge. But every time these NetherRealm punks come for a fight, they never bring any guys. Who is the NetherRealm army in Mortal Kombat 4? It's Shinnok, it's Quan Chi, and Reiko. And Reiko's from Outworld. Noob Saibot kind of is in there, and that's a good one. You know, because Noob Saibot in like MK Trilogy is alluding to Shinnok and working for Shinnok. But then he's just relegated to a secret character slot in MK4. That was a little disappointing. And I don't think they didn't really pump that up even in MK Gold, which is kind of whack. And then like Tanya is fighting for Shinnok as well. They never bring their own guys. Who have they got in MKX? Quan Chi is always, you know, he's the offsider. That's fine. But then who's fighting for the Netherrealm? It's all the Earthrealm guys that were killed off, quote unquote killed off. That's a whole other thing. Like, talk about a waste of time. I mean, we're doing it again though. It's just running. We're running on spot. It's really tedious. Hey, who's that dude in the mask?
Damn.
Is that somebody? I don't have sound, and I'm just realizing. Is that somebody that I didn't recognize before? I like the festive gear that they're wearing. You know, is there anything else to say? I feel like I've actually said a lot more than I expected to. So I'm a little disappointed. I got no time for Havoc. Havoc, whatever. I don't know what Havoc's deal is. It's very uninteresting to me. And like he pulls up his arm, he twists his body around. In Deception, he like bowls his head, and like that's cute and everything, but that's not really chaos. That's like if you look at guest characters and you give a crash test dummy Havoc's moveset, nobody suspects otherwise. He's just a crash test dummy. Nobody would be any the wiser. So Havoc's got nothing. He's a lousy character. Weak, lame, uninteresting. Ashra's got some stuff going on. I'm interested to see where that goes. I'm also interested to see how they come into the story, because you wouldn't necessarily expect them to be relevant. I don't know. And is it just a nod to Deception for the sake of it? I don't know. We'll find out. Lizard Reptile's a little bit much, but I don't hate it. My favorite reptile at this point is probably Mortal Kombat X. And I still consider it just such an absolute sin that they do this like set piece in Mortal Kombat 11's crypt. They make this big deal of like Reptile jumps out, kind of like it's kind of a movie reference in the crypt. This kind of reminds me of the crypt, by the way, of some of those tunnels, but I don't think it is. Is it Shang Tsung's flesh pits or something? Are they being held prisoner there? I don't know. Whatever. But what was I even saying? What was I saying? Yeah, they made this big deal in MK11's crypt of this set piece where like Reptile jumps out, and awesome, secret character. Reptile's the original secret character. Let's do it, secret character. And what do you get? You play this like hide and seek game in the crypt that some people probably don't even know is there, but it is. If you use your Kenshi vision, you can find Reptile in a couple of different spots, and if you tag him, you unlock a green scorpion skin, and it's not even like a reptile skin, it's like some jungle boogie thing. That was like, how did they get away with that? There were things in MK11. I like MK11 a lot, and I generally think it's like this great presentation. Mortal Kombat 1 hasn't me much less excited, if I'm totally honest. But I don't know how they got away with some of those things, like this reptile set piece that implies there's going to be an unlockable reptile, and they do nothing with it. The crypt in general starts by implying there's a lot coming, and you realize that like a bit like a mid-90s loading bar, like the first 20% of the crypt is actually like 70%, and that bar is going to load real quick once you get going. But to me, like the reptile thing was a big sin. Don't know how they got away with that. Not giving Crypt Guy an official name and maybe some involvement in what's going on. To me, like, Crypt Guy as just a bozo that you pilot around, that's a bit of a sin too. Like, this is Mortal Kombat. There should be a story aspect for everything. What's going on with the tattoos as well? Just looking at Reptile there. Has he got like a snake tattoo on his face and arm? And we got Scorpion running around with a Scorpion tattoo. And again, that 2021 movie with their junk-ass, like, Annihilation-style seals, these Arcana tattoos. Like, I don't want to be thinking about that movie ever again. That was trash. And I don't like seeing those little details creeping into this game. Is that a Warner Brothers thing? If they're holding you hostage, Ed Boon, tweet something about blinking. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with that. That was weird. Let's move on. Mortal Kombat 1, I'm not... It's fundamentally flawed, so it's tough for me to get on board. But let's check out Street Fighter 6, okay? I'm enjoying Street Fighter 6. I'm pretty early in the World Tour mode. And so this is the new character. Is it A.K.I? A.K.I? The capitalization of it is making me think of Fang from Street Fighter 5, and there is a Fang vibe to all of this. I dig that hairstyle. Oh, yeah. That's wild. She's got like this poisoner thing. She's kind of a throwback. She feels like the snake lady cliche, sort of an archetype in a lot of older fiction. She's got that sort of snake lady vibe, but then it's this crazy modern presentation of it. She's all about the poisons, and there's like these little glimpses of like J-horror, the way she like she's on you. She's got this like creepy smile, and I dig that crazy hair. That's cool. I mean, look at that. That's great.
Some poisons can kill people.
I wonder if she's in league with Fang, and I forget what the organization is.
Like botulinum toxin, it inhibits a subtle.
I like this character. I think this is cool. And again, it feels like, you know, Mortal Kombat 1 is sort of regressing in this weird, awkward way. It's like a pot plant the pot's too small and the roots are getting all mangled. That's Mortal Kombat to me right now. Street Fighter 6 is a breath of fresh air. It's moving forward. And look at this. Like, so she's a DLC character. Street Fighter 6 is out. She's going to be a downloadable character. I don't know if this is implying, like, with those characters, will World Tour expand a little bit? Because it feels like we got our, like, custom character coming in to help her and then getting caught in a trap. I don't quite know how far to expect the downloadable characters to be. I mean, I think I read something that they're like Street Fighter's characters will be optional masters in the World Tour mode, where you can learn their moves and like you can with everyone else.
Which one of these was the herbal medicine?
I don't know if it's just going to be like this tiny little hub based on an arena relevant to these characters, or what. I mean, it looks like is she in the Chinatown area where you can find Chun-Li? I'm not quite sure what that background is. It could be a new arena, actually. Maybe it's an actual like China, Hong Kong arena. I'm not really sure, but I dig this character. She's got a little bit of a different flavor. I'm really interested to see what her fighting style is like. I'm expecting something a little bit lizard-like, snake-like. You know, we've just done Reptile and even Havoc with some of those sort of body contortions. I feel like maybe Aki's going to do a bit of that as well, like be sliding around, getting up in your face, and there's just that like little horror element that's really interesting. I like the flavor of it. It's a little bit different. She's got that great look. This is really, I feel like, you know, Street Fighter 6 is taking stuff from the past, maintaining it, polishing it up, you know, keeping it good. You've got a whole of your favorite classic characters in there. It's kind of a classic presentation. We're in Metro City in a lot of World Tour, but and then they do like this classic sort of snake lady archetype, but then they do it in a new way and they're moving it forward. And Street Fighter 6 is just taking those steps forward. I feel like that's, you know, it's the antithesis in some ways to Mortal Kombat, and I prefer it. Some of these characters, they don't quite feel, you know, they're not on the level of the classics. They don't quite feel as fleshed out, as rounded. They're not necessarily keepers on that level, but I don't know. I'm enjoying it. I think Aki looks interesting. I want to know more. I guess we're not going to do as much time on her. There's not as much to talk about in some of these. But there's another Street Fighter 6. Oh no, I just hit my mic. There's another Street Fighter 6 trailer. And this one, I don't know that I feel as good about. Because Street Fighter 6 has a tie-in deal. And you might remember that NetherRealm already did Ninja Turtles in fighting games when they had the Ninja Turtles as like a 4-in-1 guest character in Injustice 2. And if you've been around while I've been playing Street Fighter 6, you know one of the things that I love about Street Fighter is they did not have guest characters. They've done, like, you know, Final Fight characters get involved. There's references to Muscle Bomber, aka Saturday Night Slam Masters. It's all internal, and it's all part of the world. You got like rival schools. You know, you got all these references. And of course, yeah, Street Fighter's done the big crossover games. They've done, like, you know, Street Fighter X-Men, which led to like all the Capcom Marvel stuff. They've done Tatsunoko. They've done all the SNK stuff. I got this big stack of fighting games next to me somewhere here. I think I have. No, I don't. You know, Capcom SNK. I like that's all great, but I like that they sequestered it. They made it its own thing. It was the spectacle of it. But the mainline Street Fighter games have not polluted themselves with guest characters. They do have a lot of cosplay skins, inspired by different things. They've even had, you know, I was in a bit of a fighting layer mood recently, which comes from Arika, who did the collaboration with the Street Fighter X games, created like their own roster. It was almost like a versus game for a franchise that didn't exist yet, that kind of deal. Like Fighting Layer becomes its own thing, and there's a recent game which I did just recently pick up in the Summer Sale, the PlayStation Summer Sale. But so they've done like these guest costumes, these cosplay attires in Street Fighter, and I can kind of feel a little bit better about that. And that's what the Ninja Turtles are. They're just cosplay skins. It's kind of like the cryptid Blanca skin that we saw in World Tour, which was kind of like weird, but it's sort of like this big suit. They've kind of done that with the Ninja Turtles. They're not creating a full Ninja Turtle character, which has its pros and cons, because it's sort of like, well, you're not even going to give me the Ninja Turtles with their own moves? What's that about? On the other hand, I don't really want the Ninja Turtles getting involved in the Street Fighter game. And there is you may want to know, there's like a 5-issue miniseries, Street Fighter Ninja Turtles, which is, you know, that's some fun. Ninja Turtles have been doing a lot of crossover stuff like that. There's the, I think they're onto the 3rd Batman Ninja Turtles crossover, and there's probably, I'm sure there's others that I'm not thinking of. I think they did Ninja Turtles Power Rangers, so it's sort of like these 90s martial arts things crossing over. All of that's cool, and from a Ninja Turtles perspective, it's maybe a bit better. Ninja Turtles is sort of like a tricky one, because they sort of have these iconic periods, but it's not necessarily a well-maintained franchise in that respect. Because I think even like I consider the Mirage comics, that's your official source material, and I think even that has ended. Because you've sort of got, you had the Image era comics, which sort of changed it up a bit, and IDW do all this stuff, and now we've got like Last Ronin is a big deal. So I don't know, Ninja Turtles is kind of all over the place, and if you look at it from a Turtles perspective, these crossovers are maybe a little bit more palatable in that sense. But yeah, I don't know. And I mean, obviously this is like this is capitalizing on Mutant Mayhem, the new film, which is yet another iteration with its own quirks and twists. I don't know. People are kind of losing their heads over that. I don't know that it matters, and frankly, like, if you look at Ninja Turtles, we're on about our 6th version in the mainstream now. You got live action films, you got the 2003 series, which I would probably say is one of the peaks. The 80s cartoon is certainly very well known and beloved. I was a huge fan of that cartoon when I was a kid. I loved it. Had the toys, you know, all that stuff. But if you actually sit down and watch it, it's not very good. It's not really based on the comics very much at all. Bebop and Rocksteady, maintaining the Shredder's a good thing. The Shredder dies in the first issue of the comic, and then there's all this convoluted stuff. But to me, the 2003 cartoon did a good job of kind of like trying to juggle it, at least for like the first however many episodes. It often, I find with the Ninja Turtles, it often drops off a little bit. But, you know, we've got those. There's like Nickelodeon's done a few versions now that they own it. The whole thing. We got Mutant Mayhem now, so I don't know, whatever. Ninja Turtles are kind of a mess. Don't go fighting in the streets about it. That's all I would say. Play Street Fighter, don't fight in the streets over Ninja Turtles. That's my hot take. This, I can live with it. I kind of like that they're basically like classic Ninja Turtles. It's kind of the 80s cartoon, but you could kind of say it's also a little bit of the sort of Image era sort of comic style Turtles as well. It's like evolved from the original Eastman and Laird where they had like the droopy. It's much more the 80s cartoons. It's very much that era. And then I guess by extension the Archie comics, which were an extension of the cartoon basically. I don't know, it's cool. It's very much the iconic Ninja Turtles. I'm reluctant to say definitive, but it's basically the definitive Turtles. That's cool. It's a nice little tie-in. I'm not going to be pursuing it, but great. Why not?
Peggy 16.
Move on to Tekken. I love this intro thing that they've kept up with Kazuya and Kazama Jin coming and colliding in the ring. That's cool. It's interesting. So this is the trailer for Raven. I mean, look at this. That swirling portal, this sort of dark Asian aesthetic.
Witness the results of my training.
Do I need to say Mortal Kombat? It feels very Mortal Kombat. And I felt like, you know, me as a Tekken fan, as a fan of most of these franchises, Street Fighter and all that, and Street Fighter might be my favorite still in some ways because it stays beholden to these things as martial arts franchises. It's about martial artists, you know, existing in different worlds. There's different spheres of martial arts, but essentially it remains martial arts. It's not World War Sci-Fi 3 or whatever, you know, it's not Battleship of, you know, like, that's a terrible comparison, but Tekken went very World War. Mortal Kombat already leans that way with the special forces and that. So, you know, I like that Street Fighter maintained its flavor. It's very much still, it tastes like Street Fighter. It evolves, it matures, it expands. But it's still this great martial arts-centric franchise with these great martial arts characters. So Tekken, I felt like was really, I mean, in some ways it's too much like Street Fighter, and it's actually much more of like it comes out of Virtua Fighter. Tekken is arguably a knockoff of Virtua Fighter. It just happens to be a pretty good one, and it went wide. But I feel like Tekken 4, which a lot of people hated. It's one of my favorites, though. I love Tekken 4. I love the vibes, the energy. You know, the addition of Steve Fox, Craig Marduk, Christy Montero. Like, these are good characters. They're not your A-list, but they're good additions. I particularly like Steve Fox, and the playstyle was very interesting. Their version of a boxer, which was really cool. The boxer conundrum in these games is always interesting, which was really, you would really say it was defined by Boxer or Balrog in Street Fighter 2 and the way they handled it, and then Dudley was like an interesting twist on that. But I feel like Steve Fox came at it in a different way, in a Tekken way, and it was really cool. And then Tekken 5 comes in, and to me it felt like Tekken 5 that's where things are changing. It's lost a bit of its Tekken flavor. It's now, it's got fluff on it. It's picked up some dirt. It's landed on the ground, sort of thing. And to me, there were these moments in Tekken 5, more so in design aesthetic. There's that campfire arena in particular I think of, and even the vibe of Yoshimitsu in Tekken 5, where I felt like this is getting a little bit Mortal Kombat, and I don't like it. I want the luxury of all these great flavors. I don't want these things to cross over. You know, I really don't want more crossover games or anything. I love that I can get, okay, I go to Street Fighter, I get this great, like, proto Dragon Ball Z, sort of like anime-infused martial arts world and all those characters. I love that I get that. Then I go over to Tekken. It's a little bit similar, but it's got like it's got more of that like operatic sort of Shakespearean family conflict with all these great surrounding characters again, because I love the ensemble of these games. I often don't really hold to a favorite character. I love the ensemble. I like the way all these particles are gathered together through circumstances, and then you watch how they interact, how they behave, how they respond. And that's where I groove to the stories of these games. Even Street Fighter 2, it can seem very simple, but there is a truth to it. There is this great universal truth, and I often like, because I find myself involved in these sort of combat centric endeavors, and then it's sort of like, well, you're not an idiot. You can string a sentence together. Why are you so obsessed with like all this fighting shit? And I kind of look at it, drama is conflict. Story is drama. Drama is conflict. And the simplicity of like two characters vividly realized with motivations and style and characteristics. Like Raven has this great like ninja element, and he's sort of a secret agent.
Get ready for the next battle.
You know, like that informs how they will react against anything. You take one of these characters and you put them next to another. Doesn't matter which one. You can just keep doing it, and you have a sense of how they will react. And in the grand sort of operatic presentation of a fighting game, where there's a little bit of a sports element, but it's still this sort of like grandiose, almost operatic way of existing, where their conflict is presented through the fight. And because it's a game, like the game element is important, so it does undermine that concept a little bit. But as a narrative conceit, particularly like something like Mortal Kombat does the story mode, where there is a set outcome, and you get to interact with it. You get to, in some ways, determine how that outcome is reached, but the outcome is necessary. And so ultimately, just the fight is the purest form, maybe the highest form of drama. It's two opposing forces, and it's just the problem is worked out in the fight. And in that regard, so you want each character to have different flavor, really make them more vivid, and I like Raven in that regard. Raven, I guess, shows up in Tekken 5. And he's a little bit, like, I look at Mortal Kombat as like an encroaching influence, or at least a comparison. But I would also say it's Raven feels a little bit informed by like, there's like a hint of Ninja Gaiden, and maybe a little, I don't know, I wouldn't say Metal Gear, but that's totally wrong.
16.
But a little bit of Metal Gear, maybe. Sort of some comparisons there with, I don't know, Raiden or something. I like Raven. It's cool to see Raven back. I mean, Tekken, usually with Tekken, you can count on everybody coming back, most of them coming back. I think they could do with like letting some characters go. I don't know what Heihachi's status is, and Heihachi is one of those characters. Like, I love Heihachi, but the voice actor passed away, and it sort of felt like, we could retire this character. I got mixed feelings about like Kasumi being back. I don't know if it's a different Kasumi. I mean that's one of the interesting things about Tekken. Not really relevant to Raven, but like I was a little bit of a tough sell on Tekken initially. I found it a little bit slow. It was a little bit floaty. I wasn't, sort of like, this is kind of like Virtua Fighter or Street Fighter. But Street Fighter was like, I mean, when Tekken 2 is out, you've got like the Versus games, the Alpha games, and I'll just play Street Fighter, forget it. It's so much faster, it's more intuitive and all that. Tekken 3 really won me over though, and I think a lot of people, if you're around for PlayStation, Tekken 3, probably one of your big titles at some point. Most people, not everybody, but most people got on board with Tekken 3, and that's where I really become convinced. But Tekken 3 was so interesting because it's like you can draw a very direct comparison to Street Fighter 3. And Street Fighter 3, we can never forget how much that was rejected. And one of the reasons Street Fighter 3 was so, aggressively rejected was that you had barely any classic characters, and it was the freaks.
You won't see this coming.
It was the freaks. It was the freak show. All these weird, like mutant characters, and just, boring characters. I forget who comes in which version. Obviously, by Third Strike, they've made good. You've got a few more respectable characters. You've got I like Dudley. Is it Makoto? She's pretty good. Like the martial artists are what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for some sort of like genetically engineered Dalsim wannabe that's like some gloopy whatever. I don't know what science experiment. Q, where it's like he's like this cyborg. It's just weird. The references are to anime. They're not anything martial arts. Like, take me back to when they were looking at martial arts things. All these characters inspired by martial arts things, like Dalsim, you know, is like right out of Flying Guillotine. And you've got like Ryu's inspired by these old masters. He's not even that old, really. Even like DJ is Billy Blanks. I don't know. I'm blanking on some of the big references, but it just went off the rails. Tekken 3, on the other hand, same kind of deal. Like they skip forward, because Street Fighter 3 was like this big step forward. And if you read the manga, it's like Ken Masters has achieved. He is now a martial arts master. He beat Ryu to it, but Ryu's going to get there as well. But it's like this big step forward. You got like Sean, Yin, Young, and Makoto. All these younger. It's like it's not quite a full generational shift, but it is basically like Street Fighter 3 is the next generation, and it flops big time. At least on that first run, massively disappointing. Like, oh my god. And it did, like, you can't forget, it kind of, Street Fighter 3 in particular condemned Street Fighter to be idle for a long time. They didn't think Street Fighter 4 would be viable. That gap is real. That happened. And it was always like, Capcom brass, not enough reason to do it. Even though Street Fighter 3 Third Strike did make good, and there's technical elements in Street Fighter 3 that's really good. But, so Street Fighter 3 flops, and Tekken 3 does the same kind of thing. It's this generational leap forward. They jettison some of their major characters. Kazuya is gone. Jin Kazama's in.
Kazama Jin!
And then they pull it off. They absolutely pull it off. Tekken 3 shows you that you can take that big leap forward. You can jettison a huge part of your roster and replace them. And you can do it in interesting, intuitive ways that satisfy the audience. And you can create these great new characters. Tekken 3 showed that it could be done. And I would argue to some degree, like years later, Mortal Kombat X picks up the tab on that as well. Maybe even better than Tekken 3 did. Because a lot of those new characters in Mortal Kombat X aren't just, you know, analogs to missing characters. In fact, they weren't missing. You know, like Cage and Sonya are in there with Cassie Cage. That was purely just like a generational concept, a mashup. Whereas Tekken 3 was creating like stand-ins that would satisfy your urge for what was taken away. All of this is going on with like Raven on the screen. Look at that arena. This is really weird, by the way. I should have mentioned that. Very much like it's not a it could be a Mortal Kombat arena. You could definitely see that being in. I almost want to say that's like a Mortal Kombat versus DC, a revamped Deception, maybe arena. I don't know what era Mortal Kombat. It could fit into Mortal Kombat 2011, but it also feels a little bit like, you know, it's a Mortal Kombat arena in a game that isn't Mortal Kombat. You know, it's got that vibe to it as well. It's interesting, and I like that Tekken 8, it has the stage transitions. That's cool. And Tekken is maintained the sort of like the fighting ring, where you essentially you have your central slice. I mean, look at this arena. It's hard not to think of Jade's Desert or the Desert Arena in Mortal Kombat 3 and MK 2011. I don't know what's going on with that giant hand, and you've got like this big hand with sand and everything, and now I'm thinking of like Chronica, Mortal Kombat 11 and all that stuff. I mean, we keep seeing, it bears mentioning, we keep seeing like Ed Boon and Harada.
You won't see this coming.
Katsuhiro Harada.
Kazama Jin! Harada!
We keep seeing these guys, Boon and Harada, getting together. And like, we're all expecting some kind of crossover here. Because Tekken's doing guest characters, of course. Mortal Kombat is doing guest characters. We already know the Combat Pack 1. Are we going to see like a Tekken character show up in Mortal Kombat 1? Are we going to see a combat character in Tekken? I mean, I'd say Street Fighter by mistake because, you know, like Akuma showed up in Tekken 7 in lieu of the Tekken Street Fighter crossover. Lest we forget, Capcom did Street Fighter Tekken Street Fighter Cross Tekken. Didn't go down well, so they scrapped Tekken Cross Street Fighter, which was going to be Namco's version. Keeping in mind too, Namco did Pokken Fighters, the sort of like Pokemon Tekken. So how far are they going to stretch that? They're going to do like a Street Fighter Tekken crossover, separate game? No. They drop Akuma into Tekken 7 and they make a little bit of a story presentation out of it. And they had Negan from The Walking Dead, which was just so weird. Geese Howard was a bit better from, you know, from Fatal Fury, King of Fighters. No, Art of Fighting. Is Geese? Man, I'm getting them all mixed up. I love fighting games and I know fighting games, but it's late. It's been a long, stressful day. I'm getting everything mixed up. Is Geese in all of those things? Is he in none of them? I know he's in King of Fighters. Is it Art of Fighting? I think Art of Fighting is Geese Howard. All those games. But so he showed up in Tekken 7 as well, which was cool. That's a good crossover. That's a nice crossover. Namco were early to the crossover game because you got to remember, like Soul Calibur had Spawn, it had Link, it had Darth Vader, Yoda, some other guy. It had Heihachi. That was kind of Heihachi was both weak and yet more appealing. It was like worse and better than the others because it was kind of like you're in Soul Calibur, you don't even have a weapon. But, hey, you're in Soul Calibur and you don't even have a weapon. That's kind of cool. That's like a whole different... This guy's actually contributing something. He's totally different. So I kind of like that. And the Tekken Soul Calibur crossover is much less offensive. Anyway, forget it. Here's Raven. I like Raven. That is so Raven. That is so... Look at that hand with like almost gold sand pouring through it. That just feels so Mortal Kombat. And it does irritate me. I feel like Tekken is looking at Mortal Kombat. Like Harada makes jokes and stuff. He was making some joke about the cameo system and like putting himself in as a cameo or something. I forget what that was. I mean, that's great. But I don't want Tekken looking at Mortal Kombat too much. Maintain your own flavor. And I felt like Street Fighter V was really compromised by looking at Mortal Kombat too much. I feel like that hurt them. It's kind of weird because Mortal Kombat surpassed Street Fighter for a while there. Feels like nature is healing and Mortal Kombat's kind of like doing a really dunder-headed thing, diminishing itself, and Street Fighter got its act together in a big way and did some really good stuff. It'll be interesting to see if Mortal Kombat 1 has some special sauce that they haven't told us about. At some point they were downplaying like extra modes, but at the same time, like for the last few years, Ed Boon is constantly poking that hornet's nest. You like Deception? Yeah, you like Mortal Kombat Deception? Would you like to see the Conquest mode again? Do you like Conquest mode? He's just like poking that stick. People are always saying we want a Conquest mode. We love the Deception game. And it was cool because it was kind of like Mortal Kombat open world. I still think it's insane that we don't have like a spin-off adventure game for Mortal Kombat. It's been so long since Shaolin Monks. There's that shot in the Mortal Kombat 1 trailer where Reptile's like standing on the it's not pagoda, but you know, like standing on the tea house or whatever, and and he's overlooking this landscape, and I'm just thinking like that's what I want. I want like Arkham City but with Scorpion or something. I want to be using that rope dart to be like swinging around the city in some sort of like stylized sort of Hong Kong and Japan and China. I want to be doing all that kind of stuff and like fighting ninja goons across rooftops and doing all that kind of stuff. You know, I'm always playing Elden Ring and I'm just saying like the flavor of Elden Ring is so bland and uninteresting. If you could skin it with like Mortal Kombat and Mortal Kombat characters, do like a Souls-like with Mortal Kombat, it'd be great. Anyway, I'm talking about Mortal Kombat again. We got a Tekken trailer here. It's not even the last Tekken trailer. I'm bouncing around, topic to topic. Just try to keep up. I'm doing my best here. We got one more Tekken trailer. Let's check it out. This is a new character. Azucena?
Peggy 16.
Azucena, I think is how it's said. I believe she's Peruvian. She likes coffee. She seems like a swell gal. I think you're going to like her. I think I like her already. What a beautiful vista. And taking us back... Yeah, there you go, Peru. She's Peruvian. Kind of taking us back to the ogre days in Tekken 3. I'm down with that. Look at this. She's got a lot of pep. She's an MMA fighter. But she loves coffee. And I like coffee too. I like MMA. I think gals are alright too. This is cool. She's got like a lot of pep. She's not going to be like an A-lister. She's not, you know, she's not the new, you know, whoever, Kazuya or Nina Williams, Anna Williams. Hey, there's King. Love King. It's interesting. So she's got some sort of move where you can like enter a stance and she will counter moves. She loses block. She can't block in this stance, but she can counter moves. It kind of feels like it sounds like it's Tekken easy mode, which is kind of like, that's mind-blowing if you play Tekken, because you're already thinking of like Eddie Gordo button mashing specials. That's Tekken easy mode. You tell me this is like the Donkey Kong Country of Tekken, where I don't know, like I don't know if you're pressing buttons or something, or if she's just automatically entering into counter animations. This is cool. I like the coffee gimmick. There's a lot of coffee drinkers. We're all drinking coffee. We're all just absolutely off our nuts on coffee. Let's face it. It's a coffee drinker's world. I think she's cool. I mean, this is Tekken. Tekken is like, you know, Tekken's reliable. Tekken's old faithful. Look at this temple vibe. I feel like you're going to say Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and yeah, okay, but look, it's cool. There was an issue of the Phantom. I'm talking comics now. There was always a danger of that. You're in the Hellhole, you're going to hear about comics. There was an issue of Phantom I had when I was a kid that was about haunted skulls and stuff. And I think it might have even been set in Peru, so I guess they're like tapping into the mythology local. Look at that. I mean, I like that. That's a good bit of flavor. And I like it when these fighters, they have a national identity that exploits some sort of like stereotype or national interest. Peruvian coffee. She's cutting promos, she's doing like ads for a coffee. But she's this great like MMA fighter from Peru. I like it. It's like it's a bit of the old, it's a bit of the new.
Peggy 16.
You know, you're not going to build a franchise around her probably. You might build like a coffee franchise. You might open maybe open a cafe or something franchise, but you're not going to build like a video game franchise around her. But she's a nice new addition. Something not quite as strong as the Tekken 7 trio that came out as DLC. They were really good. I think, was Leroy in here somewhere? He's awesome. Love Leroy. The old Kung Fu master that's sort of like, you know, Wu-Tang vibes almost. That's great. I love him. I liked Fakum Rum. He was really good. Azucena, I don't have sound. You can probably hear it said. But it looks good, and that's what's important. Check out these moves. I like that, you know. She's got the MMA moves, but it's cranked up to 11, like a good fighting game character should be. Their fighting style should be a little bit exaggerated, a little bit, you know, reality boring. There's Leroy. I always think back to Ed Boon said something about, you know, reality's boring, nobody wants to pay for reality. And of course, that has really gone out the window. I would love to just sort of like, you know, look in the mirror, Boon. What are you doing? It's too naturalistic. Stop doing reboots. Live in the now. But yeah, I like the way, you know, there is a. I mean, Tekken barely had special moves back in the day. They dabbled in it here and there. I think there's some sort of like, have they added some sort of equivalent that's almost like the big super moves that a lot of these games have now? I think there is. It's sort of like cinematic move. There's something like that. And they've got more like zooms and stuff like that, it looks like. But, you know, Tekken was almost, even more than Street Fighter, it was like the real stuff. It was real martial arts. It was just about like who can fight better than the other. Obviously, there's like devils and, you know, devils and Aztec deities shooting lasers out of their heads and stuff. But they were the exception, and that made it really special, which is in its own way cool. But they got all these characters like this who are just like, she's just like a fighter. She's a good fighter. Her style's a little exaggerated. It's not, you're not going to see that if you turn on the UFC tomorrow. It's all really good. I don't know if I'd be curious if there's a particular inspiration for Azucena. It does feel to me like there's maybe a little hint of Gina Carano in there, but obviously Gina Carano is not exactly
Peggy 16.
exactly endearing herself right now. I love that movie Haywire. If you've ever seen that, Steven Soderbergh with Gina Carano as the star. Good movie. Interesting gal, but she's maybe got to rethink a few things. A little bit of the self-pity going on. There's no pity about this. I think, you know, if I had to rank them, it's really hard to rank these trailers in terms of, you know, who came out on top, because Mortal Kombat 1 has the luxury of being, it's sort of, I think Tekken 8 is further along, Street Fighter 6 is already out, so Mortal Kombat 1 has more to show. They crammed in 3 new characters and a cameo. And I've got very mixed feelings about them, and I would say of the 3 games, Mortal Kombat 1 is probably the one I'm the least enthusiastic about. I have the most attention on it out of some obligations to other projects, such as MortalKombatOnline.com. But yeah, Mortal Kombat 1 is like the game I'm least enthusiastic about. But of these trailers, Astra's pretty good, Reptile's decent, not so into Havoc, Serena's a little bit Harvey Comics hot stuff, I don't know. And then like A.K.I, there's not a full picture there, but what is there is very interesting. Azucena is like a good addition, but she's not hugely exciting. She is ultimately just like, she's just a fighter in, you know, a top and pants. Not quite as exciting as some of the other characters. I don't know. Maybe we won't rank them. We won't declare a winner. We won't rank them. We'll just keep our eyes on what's coming and look forward to playing some more games. I don't know, like Street Fighter 6 is the only one that's PS4. You gotta go PS5 and other. You gotta go PS5 or surrender your DVD. But Street Fighter 6 being on PS4 means I'm playing it. I'm playing it now. These games, I don't know when I'm going to play them. I'm not really excited about investing in a new console right now. I don't feel like the spread is very good. These games are going to help. Tekken 8 and to a lesser degree Mortal Kombat 1, although the jury's out. Mortal Kombat 1 has to play out. It has to show all of its cards. Right now it's not exciting me. The fundamental concept is very frustrating. The execution to be determined. Because I would say of Mortal Kombat 1, which is the game I've at least talked about the most today, or tonight, I would say that Mortal Kombat 1, we're right back to where we were with Mortal Kombat 2011. It's a reboot, it's a reset of the timeline, it's an excuse to bring back all the old characters, to relive MK1, MK2, MK3, which in some ways are an albatross because the series has never fully escaped them. And there's like, you know, there's an element of MK1 that is 30th anniversary celebration because it was the 30th anniversary was we're actually getting really close to the 31st.
Get ready for the next battle.
But I think it was when's the anniversary? I think it's coming up. In any event, MK1, it's sort of, there's a facade of this is the 30th anniversary, we're celebrating the origin point by going back to the start, but also incorporating more things into it. But essentially we are, it's an excuse to go back to the beginning, and we've never escaped that. The franchise has never fully achieved escape velocity from those original games. Deadly Alliance is one of my favorite Mortal Kombat games. To me, that was the beginning of, like, obviously it was a new era. It was a new era. We call it the 3D era. That is widely accepted now. It was so exciting particularly for me as a fan, because like you got to remember too, Mortal Kombat 4 comes out, very lukewarm reception. It's kind of embarrassed by the other 3D fighters that are already out there. Tekken 3 is like dances all over Mortal Kombat 4. MK4 is just like so. It's behind the times. It's clunky. It just doesn't achieve what it sets out to do. Its design sensibility, a lot of its elements, it very naturally, although it's the first sort of quote-unquote 3D game, and we would consider it a 3D game like on MKO, it's very much of a piece of that original trilogy. And then the fallout of that, MK Gold gets in there on Dreamcast, but obviously it's very limited release, not many people know it. Special Forces doesn't really do much, it barely comes out. It's such a compromised game. It's not a bad game, it's not the worst game of all time, but it's a very compromised game. It just ekes out an existence on PlayStation at a very cheap price from release. So there's this huge gap between essentially MK4 in 97, Deadly Alliance in 2002. And Deadly Alliance really is... The thing that made that so exciting was just the fact that... I'm going to switch it. I'm going to go back to Mortal Kombat. Deadly Alliance was exciting because it was like... these new characters were exciting. I remember particularly just seeing the color and the design sensibilities that were totally new of like Draman and that Oni mask. You're getting a color palette. Moloch. There was that great like concept art. I don't know if that was all Luis Mangabat. He did some great concept art. I don't think all of that was him, but like, so I was getting magazines at the time, and you see Draman, you see Moloch, you see the new Quan Chi design. With at that stage they kept having that quote-unquote living weapon that they were building up that never actually happened. So you're seeing that stuff. You're seeing, I mean, the new Scorpion was released. That design came out in advance. I don't know. It seemed like it was a year or more in advance, but it probably wasn't that long. Time moved faster back then. A lot was happening. Games didn't, you know, they were releasing games every 2 years. But Deadly Alliance was just so exciting. And even, I always think of that like render image of Sub-Zero. And Sub-Zero is wearing like, his design is very much, you know it's Sub-Zero straight away. He still has the blue mask. You know, I'm thinking of that one in particular. There was the MK3 style design where he's got the exposed face, but there was that render in particular with like the black cowl, the blue mask, and he's got like, I think it's an asymmetrical. One side has the blue sort of sash thing, and he's got the medallion. And it was a little bit palette swap, but it was just it was such a clear statement of intention. These characters are going to be individuals. You will identify them immediately. You change the color, you still know which character that is. That's Sub-Zero. That character is the Scorpion. And it was such an important point for the Mortal Kombat franchise to me. Because I would play that, I mean, you know, if you've been in the archives, you know I played the first Mortal Kombat. I was with the franchise from the very beginning. It was a big thing, but you know, you're in the arcade, you've got Street Fighter 2 one side of you, you're playing Mortal Kombat, and it's like, these things are not equal. They're not, there's an overlap, but they're not equal, and it was always, even with other friends, like even friends who weren't quite as deep into the franchises as I was, because I was pretty serious. I was a gamer, I was playing these games, not competitively, but my appreciation of them, my fandom was strong. I was heavily interested. I was reading the stories, I was, you know, getting everything that I could out of them. And it was always kind of like, you look at the Mortal Kombat tournament of that first game, Street Fighter 2 has already been out for a year, and you're thinking, yeah, these should exist as rough approximates. Mortal Kombat only had like seven playable characters, something like that. A couple of NPCs. You're looking at those and you're thinking like, yeah, this tournament is clearly populated by other characters, and you could compare it to Street Fighter 2. And it's like, yeah, there's martial artists. And these are the martial artists we have that they could make, but. And you've got like Scorpion and Sub-Zero. Okay, they look the same now, but you're supposed to think of them as different because they're not on the same team. They hate each other, so they're not going to share a wardrobe. That's stupid. You know, that kind of thing. There was always a mindset for me that we're just waiting for the technology to be better, so we don't have to rely on color swapping. The palette swap thing was a means to an end, and it was good. And they had a great design, the design that they have, and they got what they could out of it with different moves and stuff, and iconic things like that. But it was always to me an intent that these characters will one day stand alone, and you will identify them immediately. Just them standing there in their stance, you will know immediately who is who, not just by the orientation of the hands and like the wiggle of the hips, but by visual. You know, by the silhouette, that idea that the best character designs have an iconic silhouette, that kind of thing. That's what I was thinking. So when Deadly Alliance shows up and it delivers that for that group of characters, that was such a huge moment. Deception addresses some more characters, and then with Armageddon, everyone had some sort of reconsideration. And it was more of a... I mean, there were lesser characters, I would say, like, you know, like Kai wasn't a particularly good update. I tend to still think of MK4 Kai as superior, with the potential for Kai to still get that definitive look. I always thought it would be cool if he was more of like a Zulu warrior or something like that, you know. That would involve a retcon because he is. I think Liu Kang met him in America. I don't know if it's explicitly stated that he's American, but I thought more flavor and involving more of the world always seemed like. Again, it's that Street Fighter 2 comparison where like Earthrealm's in peril, but everybody's from America or China. And it's kind of like, you know, maybe want to get a few more countries involved, a few more nations involved. You know, like Earthrealm's in peril. Maybe we could recruit a couple of guys from somewhere else. You know, so I always thought, yeah, like a cool Zulu, like a Zulu guy would become cool, and he already had like the white highlights. So I thought Kai would be good. I keep these guys in disguise. One of them's Johnny Cage. Is that other guy Kung Lao, or is that? I'm not so sure. I guess that's Kung Lao. It made me think, is Kai in this game? I'm kind of expecting Kai to be in here, because that's another criticism of Mortal Kombat X. Where the hell is Kai? You retail MK4, you don't deliver Reiko or Kai. And then you drop Baracho in there? I don't know where. I don't have a problem with Baracho being in there, because that's cool. And Baracho is a character that certainly... I mean, Baracho would fit in with Mortal Kombat 1, I gotta think. And everything that's going on here. He might be a cameo. I always thought Baracho would actually be a really good character for like a training mode that has a bit of story and presentation. Would be a good one. Train you up. I don't know. We're getting all over the place, and really, I should wrap it up now because we're kind of done. This is cool. I like the wing move. That's really good. Is it maybe premature though? Is Ashra there? Interesting too. Look, man, I could bounce around so many different subjects. Things are coming into my mind, and hopefully my audio's okay. I'm fucking peeking all over the place. I didn't check any of that at any point. Oh my goodness. Hopefully you've heard me and it's been clear and it hasn't been too peaky or too noisy. But just on the note that Ashra's back, and it's interesting too. She's in the upcoming animated movie Mortal Kombat Legends Cage Match, which has that sort of like 80s. I would almost say faux 80s because it's so on the nose, but Ashra's in there, and it looks like Kia and Jataka are in there. I don't know if Serena is. I don't know why she wouldn't be.
Earthrealmers aren't ready to see the real me.
I wouldn't think that there's any reason that Serena wouldn't exist in the 80s, and it's late 80s. So like, I don't know. I'm trying to run through Mortal Kombat mythologies in my head. Is there a reason Serena wouldn't be able to be in Cage Match? Apart from the fact that like these animated movies do not consider them in any way important to Mortal Kombat and its story. Because they're just hot-shotting it now with Snowblind, a what-if future, Cage Match, just a what-if backstory. I don't know. What is canon? What is story in Mortal Kombat now? They've smashed it to smithereens. Does anything matter? It's getting really hard to stay invested at this point. They just keep telling us that it doesn't matter. I don't know. I don't want to end on a downer, but that is a huge cloud over Mortal Kombat 1. Regressive, destructive. You know, what matters? Nothing really matters. Nothing. It's a shame that, you know, we got 3D characters here, but part of the appeal of the 3D era was that it was progress. It was progress, it was refinement. There's positives here, it's not all bad, but there's a fundamental flaw. I don't know. We'll probably be revisiting the subjects. I don't know. Has this been any good? I'm generally unconvinced by the concept of reaction videos, but we had all these trailers come out at the same time. I'm a fighting game tragic, and I just thought it'd be interesting to experiment with just like shooting shit, chatting with you, talking about a subject that I'm interested in. I kind of tried it with the Disney cards. Boy do I regret that. Disney has discontinued DVD and Blu-ray in Australia, and it's just a dystopian state of affairs. Really disappointed with that. Really disappointing. Actually, I just noticed there, was that Ashra in disguise, and did she have a big hat that was at least shaped a bit like the Deception one? Or was that somebody else? That might have been somebody else. And you start me on a fighting game and you just keep dangling things in front of me. I'm going to bounce around for hours. It's already been an hour. You can find actual gameplay of things. Again, not expert gameplay. I'm a fan. I'm not an expert at playing them, at least. I know a little bit about what's going on and what's happened. But if you want to find all that, check out the About section on Twitch. That'll get you to the archive. You can search for YouTube Mortal Kombat. On YouTube, search for Hellhole Mortal Kombat, Hellhole Street Fighter, Hellhole Ninja Turtles. Any of those things should get you to something. From there, you can get to the channel. Look around, see what's good. There is, if you head into the playlist section, there is a fighting Hellhole playlist, which is just all fighting games. There's all kinds of playlists like that if you want to explore. There's just whatever's current. This will probably go up pretty quick because it's sort of topical. I didn't really feel like getting to it last night. It was a long, stressful day. I know you're supposed to do these things like quick smart, but you know, I got to be somewhat coherent. I got a big stack of fighting games. We'll probably get to some of these. I don't think you can see them because the light is so perfectly reflecting. I got a massive stack. This isn't even all of them, of course. I just grabbed a whole heap of fighting games. I wanted to feel inspired. There's my Kotal Khan action figure. He's my favorite. We got some of my favorite Street Fighters, Mortal Kombat, Tekkens, Double Dragons in there from Master System. You can find that if you check out the Birthday Special 2, Birthday Extravagant, the Hellhole Mick Lucifer Birthday Extravaganza 2. It's very recent. Might not be on the front page, but if you go through the videos, you'll find it. You can check out Double Dragon from Master System, which is a unique version of Double Dragon. It's worth checking out. And Street Fighter 2 in that one as well, which was a fun time. Just chatted a bit like this. If you enjoyed this, you know, I was playing some Street Fighter 2. I played a few other games. There's all kinds of stuff, so find it in the archive. YouTube, Hellhole, whatever. Hellhole's one word. Don't be fooled by what's on the screen. And I even address Evo's on the screen because all of these trailers came out during the Evo World Championship, which I believe Ninja Killer won Mortal Kombat 11. Hopefully there'll be something about that on MKO at some point. Usually we try to post the Evo positions, the final top whatever. You know, it's really subject to what information is around, what can be sourced, what can be described, and you know what can be cobbled together. Because I'm a busy man and I'm underappreciated and overworked sometimes. Maybe not so much now. I don't know. All kinds of stuff going on. I'll be back playing more games. I'm very keen to get back to Vampire Survivors. That's really the game at the moment. It's been really easy just to dive in to Vampire Survivors, but I wanted to get something a little bit different in. I'm not going to do reaction videos for this, that, and everything, unless you really enjoyed it and you really want me to. And hopefully I can be lucid and have an opinion, because sometimes I just don't care. Sometimes I'm just not that interested. I'm certainly not hooting and hollering. If you're looking for that, you're going to have to look somewhere else. I'm not screaming my head off because Ashra's here. It's cool. I've been waiting for it. I've been hoping to do it one day. But, you know, I'm a human being. So let's try to keep these things, you know, in perspective. In any event, this has been a very nice time. I've enjoyed telling you some of my thoughts, discussing these fighting games, checking out these trailers. Hopefully they looked okay. Had a little bit of trouble, you know, sourcing the trailers. all of that stuff. I get trailers from Warner Brothers. I'm very lucky in that regard. I get the videos directly from them more often than not. But the other games, you know, you gotta take it where you can get it. But anyway, that's Inside Baseball. Thanks for hanging out with me, guys. I'll definitely be back sometime soon. And this has been alright, hopefully. Hopefully everything went smoothly. The correct microphone is picking me up, because that happened with the Disney thing. Anyway, adios, amigos. Hope to see you again soon. Make sure you smash that like, follow, leave a comment, ring the bell, do a handstand, unlock your sister as a secret character, do all that stuff. Hit the mic. Adios, amigos. Godspeed.